So the time has come to get to the third Fast and Furious movie, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, as we continue our series here on World of Geekdom, reviewing all the Fast and Furious movies on our way to Fast X coming out in May. So, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift brings Justin Lin as the director. Now, Justin Lin would kind of carry the franchise for a few years after this because he would direct some of the most prolific movies in the Fast and Furious franchise. This one, however, this is probably not only his weakest effort in this series, but probably the worst Fast and Furious movie. I'm going to talk about the good and the bad here, but first thing I want to say is immediately this movie is a big step down from the previous two, and I think the reason for that is the charisma of Paul Walker and Vin Diesel in comparison to the characters in this film. As I'm watching The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, I'm thinking that the movie aesthetics, the nice cars, being in Japan of all places, which I love, and sort of the what's dressing on the salad of this film is more interesting. I found myself being more interested in that than any of the characters. Lucas Black is the main actor playing Sean Boswell. He basically is a street racer who ends up going to Japan. There he meets Han, who is kind of a major character, one that knows Dominic Toretto well, and Han becomes kind of like his mentor for him to not only learn how to drift, but also improve his skills as a driver. The thing about this movie is very reminiscent of the first movie, and to be honest, of all the Fast and Furious movies, this one is the one that's most grounded to reality. It focuses back on the racing aspect, it focuses back on the cool cars, and on actually learning a skill to become a better racer. So when it comes to the entire Fast franchise, I felt like Tokyo Drift was probably the one that was the biggest love letter to street racing and the one that felt the most realistic without question. After this, the series ends up going really nutso, but this movie's super grounded. In fact, the climax of the movie is even more of a street racing aspect. It has more of a street racing aspect to it than even the first Fast and Furious movie. So it is the most grounded. That's not necessarily an issue though. I do like how this movie explores the drifting aspect of racing. Japanese or Tokyo, but really it's in Japan. The Japanese street racing scene really has been an important part of that culture, or at least it was back before this movie even came out. There's a very famous anime called Initial D, which is totally about street racing. So there was a scene in Japan, and I like that this movie sort of took us there. I like that it's sort of exploring the street racing aspect. Like I said, this one literally is the love letter to street racing. However, the unfortunate thing is that while there are some pretty extraordinary races, in fact, the second and final, the last race of this movie and the one in the middle of the film where Han ends up crashing or whatever, those are two of the best races in any Fast movie. Maybe the best. I feel like the climax of this movie has the best race, literally race, not the best scene or the most outrageous or the most spectacular, just pure racing. This one has the best one. So if you are a fan of street racing, you'll find a lot more to love about this movie. The major problem with it is that the script is boring, and the truth is Lucas Black cannot carry a movie as a main character. Bow Wow is here, and he kind of plays the part of that Tyrese had, the sidekick, because all these movies have that aspect to them. But again, he comes off like a pretty boring character, and Lucas Black just does not have the charisma. He's not anywhere near Paul Walker or Vin Diesel, even in the slightest. So making him the main character, I think, was ultimately a mistake. No disrespect to him, but he's better being one of Vin Diesel's teammates or, being a side character, but he just could not carry this movie. He could not carry it. He just can't. It is what it is. And that, I think, hurt the film. Now, I did pop for some of the cameos. For example, Sonny Chiba from the Street Fighter legend playing the Yakuza. It's just funny because the way that it's almost like a cartoon. The way that they explain or show us this character, Kamata, the head of the Yakuza, he's dressed like freaking Don Fanucci from The Godfather Part 2. He's got the white on with the hat. Like, it's almost like they just took that costume and put it on Sonny Chiba. And I thought that was pretty entertaining. The girl, the love interest in this film, to me was super cute. Super cute. Natalie Kelly, just very pretty girl. All the girls in these movies are very pretty. I don't think she matches quite to the level of Eva Mendes, and she's not really an actress that had a huge career necessarily, but she's fine for what it was. But again, out of the previous two, I guess, love interests of the previous two movies, she is the most boring. It just doesn't hold up to the previous two movies. Also, the timeline of this movie is weird. We didn't know it at the time, but we found out later. And I have to really go back. And when I get to Fast 6, I think I'm going to do a real deeper analysis on this, because I totally forgot that Vin Diesel plays Dominic Toretto in this movie in a cameo at the very end. In a scene that nowadays would be a post-credit scene, without question. In this movie, it was like the last scene of the movie, and it was like a little wink and a thumbs up to Vin Diesel. But I'm trying to remember how that, or Dominic Toretto, but I'm trying to wonder how that fits in with Fast 6, because as far as I remember, he's not supposed to be there, right? So I'll talk more about that then. This movie, the middle of this movie drags. You could have cut a lot out of the movie. The characters are boring. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. The script is not very lively at all, but the sequences are fine, and Justin Lin definitely is a guy who would go on to bigger and better things in this franchise. But this start was not a very good start. And that's crazy, because usually you have one or two directors come in and then they switch them out. But this dude came back for, you know, what people say are the best ones. Fast 5, Furious 6, and not Furious 7, but that was James Wan. But I think he came back for Fast 9, right? F9. So, yeah, I just checked. It is Justin Lin. So he did get better. But overall, I mean, this movie to me is a one and done. And if I'm being real with you, it's probably the only movie in this franchise that I feel is skippable. They do introduce some characters like Han and other ones that are going to be important later, I'm sure. But you don't really need to see this movie. Or if you're going to see it once, and then that should be it. It's just not anywhere near as entertaining as the previous two films. Now, speaking of entertaining, the next one we're going to be talking about, a cool movie with a name that I don't like, which we're going to talk about then, Fast and Furious from 2009, 3 years after this one. I thought that with Tokyo Drift, the franchise was over. I thought that was it. I thought they weren't going to make any more. But they did. They made more. They brought back Paul Walker and Vin Diesel back to basics, but that movie also began the shifting, no pun intended, the shifting of the series into being more of an action, over-the-top heist, you know, exaggerated film. Justin Lin, of course, comes back to direct that one, and it sort of changed the franchise around. So, you know, for better or for worse, and some would think it is for better. But we're going to be talking about that one next here on the series. Let me know what you think about Tokyo Drift. Did you feel the same way I did? Let me know down below, and I'll see you guys for the Fast and Furious, a.k.a. Fast and Furious 4, which is what it should have just been called then. This movie should have been called 3 Thrashed, 3 Furious. That's an old Newgrounds Flash cartoon. Anyways, y'all, see you then.